Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun Bun. This is our reaction and review to Presumed Innocent, Episode 8, the finale. Oh my goodness. Oh my, insert every single exclamation point here. This finale was lit.
It was straight fire, 10 out of 10. Like, all of you out there who had Jay, the daughter, as the person who killed Carolyn, you guys need a pat on the back from us, from yourself. Like, oh my goodness, there was a small but vocal group of you out there that really felt like she was it. And boy, were you right. And the signs were there for it. It wasn't just a wild guess. And it really paid off. 10 out of 10. I absolutely love this finale.
It was great.
I'm so glad this show is renewed. I know that they're obviously not
Yeah.
coming back where Rusty is going to be up, having a trial again. But oh my goodness, I can't wait to see what they do next.
It is so rare that we get a finale that is not just legitimately surprising, but
Yeah.
isn't surprising just for the sake of, ooh, look how smart we are. And it's not a completely out of left field twist, but it's
No.
one that at the same time, a lot of us still did not see coming. I will say this from the start. I love being wrong. And I say this, we're in this culture of people that are constantly on social media being like, I'm right, I'm right. And they just think because they say it louder than everyone else, that actually means that they're right. I love nothing more than to get egg on my face because I didn't see something coming because the showrunners really took their time to deliver something that was smart.
Yeah. If you're new to the channel, we cover murder mystery type shows all the time. It's
Yeah.
the thing that we love to talk about the most. So when we get an ending like this, where it's really surprising, because not only is it Jay that did this, Rusty was involved. Like, the twist of that was so delicious and it just unfolded in such an amazing way. And the way that he thought that it was Barbara, because we all thought it was Barbara, because it's always the spouse. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie or the books, obviously there's spoilers here, but it was Barbara there, and it felt very much like it was Barbara here. Why wasn't anybody investigating her? Like,
Yeah.
I don't like beef, but yeah, I do. And the thing that I've had that's a problem with this whole season was that no one ever looked at Barbara ever for any reason. And this twist at the end where Rusty thought that it was Barbara and he thought that he was protecting her by being the person who tied her up like Bunny to try to frame somebody else and accidentally framed himself. It was so well done because it made me really believe that, Tommy's not going to look into Barbara because he wants Rusty. Rusty doesn't want anyone looking into Barbara because he's the person who helped with this. I am so excited to have an ending like this where I just feel super satisfied. I didn't see it coming. I thought maybe Rusty was a good suspect, that
Yeah.
maybe he did it all along, but I didn't think it was like this.
I picked the wrong kid. It's sort of, I
You
was
did pick
so
the wrong
close,
kid.
and yet listen, Kyle, why are you throwing out your bicycle? The whole bicycle thing just floored me. I could never wrap my head around it. I could never get away from him. No, we're gonna talk obviously more about the mechanics of how the show pulled this off, how they sort of teased fans of the original source material,
Yeah.
all the little nuances, the MVP of the entire finale, which may actually just be Tommy's cat, who has so much screen time from start to finish. No, but before we go forward here, hit that subscribe button because, like Jess said, we love murder mysteries, and there are a number of them coming still the rest of the year. I mean, we're really excited about Only Murders in the Building, which is coming back next month.
And if you want even more murder mysteries, we're currently covering Criminal Minds and we're covering Evil over on our Patreon. We will leave a link for you below if you want to join our Patreon. It's a great way to get more crime TV content, and it's a great way to help support us as well. Thank you to everyone who has joined.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, so the biggest clue that the show gave us, and it was a meaty clue, but like only a small group of people out there like took this clue and ran with it, that it was Jay, the daughter. And it was that moment that she had that talk with Rusty. I think it was like 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago, where she was just like, I was Dr. Googling about this particular disorder where maybe you can sort of like come out of your body and have this sort of out of body experience where it's almost like you're two people doing two different things, but you're not really there with yourself while you're doing it. And she's talking to Rusty about it in a way that I think a lot of us looked at it and was like, she's talking about Rusty, right? And even later when she came back to him and she was like, Dad, like, I really hope you didn't think that I was talking about you. Like, I'm not trying to say like that you did this or anything like that, because I don't think you did it. Right, because you did it and you knew that you did it and you were talking about yourself the whole time.
I totally missed this when it was going on. It just
Me
went
too.
right over my head. I think the thing that makes this show so clever and how David E. Kelly and everybody put it together is that once I think a lot of us got it kind of set in our heads as to who the real killer was, we sort of became a little bit like Tommy, where we spent the rest of the show just trying to find ways to validate that what we thought was correct. Because the moment I got into Bicycle Gate, I was just looking for constant clues that it was Kyle. That was, oh,
Right.
why is Barbara doing this? Why is Kyle doing this? Why is Kyle there at this? And so because of that, I got really laser focused on this one suspect. And I'm really curious as to you guys' experience watching the show. Like when you decided on who the suspect was, like, did you really start looking anywhere else? Like for you, once you sort of figured out who you thought the killer was, were you actually still looking at other possibilities?
I was, but only because the creator had come out and was like, listen,
Mhm.
everyone who's watched, the movie, have read the book, you already know that the killer there is Barbara. And we may not have that same ending here. And when they were like, may not, I was kind of like, okay, so you might have the same ending here. And then
Mhm.
you're like, ha ha ha, we wanted you guys to think maybe it could be different. But then I was like, okay, so it might be different. And once it was, because I thought it was Barbara, like it just made no sense to me that she was not being investigated. It's always the spouse. Like, why was she staying with him? None of this was making any sense to me. Even when her and Rusty were like, oh, why are we staying together? It's for the kids. I'm like, okay, well, your kids are teenagers. And when you're living in a really unhappy household with unhappy parents, at that point, maybe it's time to sit down with the kids and be like, okay, we're going to split off. Your dad is over here with this woman. I'm at home really unhappy. You guys are old enough to know that it's okay, that maybe we're going to get divorced and be happy. It would make a better, happier home, perhaps, right? But this miserable home that they had going on where they're fighting all the time and he's cheating and she's cheating, it's just,
Yeah.
how is this the best solution? So I was just like, it had to be her. It made sense that she would then frame Rusty for it. She had the biggest motive. Why didn't anybody look into her? And now we have an answer.
We do, and it's an
And it's a
answer.
good one.
Yeah, it's a really good answer. And the show put together, I think, every part of this with Rusty's family in a way that's so fascinating. The
Yes.
best scene of the entire finale, at least to me. Like, there's a couple of candidates, but the best one is clearly when Rusty is laying everything out to Barbara. And
Oh my
basically,
God.
'cause
So good.
this-
Where he's just like, I know it's you. I
Yeah.
knew it was you the whole time. I was like, me too, Rusty.
This was such a way to game all of the people out there who thought the show was going to follow directly the movie or the book. And well, this is the thing, is that, you saw that quote that was out there. I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of people that are out there who are just sort of watching this show casually who probably never saw that and probably just assumed, okay, they're going to make Barbara the killer for all the reasons that you lined up. It was in the source material. It makes sense for the story. So they
Yeah.
start going down this road. And then when she is insistent that she didn't do it, and then Rusty starts trying to come up with some like psychological explanation that how she still did it, and the answer is still no, I was starting to be like, what's going on here? I was still, though, in Rusty's camp. I still thought it was Barbara when he was doing that. Like, I thought at that point my Kyle theory was wrong. But then when Jay shows up, I just lost my mind.
Yeah, I thought that he was really trying to give her a safe space to be able to trust him, which is a really difficult thing to do. He's the
Yeah.
most untrustworthy,
Oh,
unlikable guy out there. Why would she trust him to be like, okay, you got me. I murdered your lover? Like, she doesn't have any reason to build that type of trust back up with him again. But the minute that he was like, listen, I think it's you because of, XYZ, why many of us thought that it was
mhm.
Barbara. But just so you know, I went back there later, and when I saw her, I framed Liam for this so that I could cover up for you because I don't want anything to happen to you. That at that point, once he's implicating himself, I think he really felt like she was going to be like, oh, well, okay, if you're in on it and you did this, then okay, me too, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
while she was still dying on that hill, no,
Yeah.
I didn't do this. Like, I'm sorry, but you got the wrong person. Like, the look on his face was so bewildered, same as me. I was just like, well, then who did it?
I think what made it so complicated for Rusty is that, he saw the car. He saw visual evidence that's okay, there's only a select number of people here who are going to be involved in this. Of
Yeah.
course, his mind is going to jump to Barbara. Of course, that is the thing that makes the most sense.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this reveal of Jay again also makes complete sense. She knows what's going on.
Mhm.
She goes to Carolyn's house. She has this talk with her. And it's like, listen, you are ruining my family. Like, Rusty is also ruining
Yeah.
his family, and it's really Rusty that's ruining the family. And Carolyn has her part, but Rusty's the person that made his devotion to his family. He married his wife and had these kids. He's the person that's really the most responsible. But she's feeling like, hey, maybe I can get through to Carolyn. Carolyn's like, yeah, I'm trying to get out of this relationship, but your dad won't leave me alone. And, I'm happy to do what I can to stay away from him. But we have this third problem here, which is that I'm pregnant and this kid is his. So, like, I'm going to be involved in your life in some way forever, which was the trigger that just made her be like, oh, no, 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 no. There's no way that that's going to be a thing that's going to be happening. And she kills her. The
Yeah.
motivation made complete sense.
They set it up in a way where they had to figure out how do we get Jay to a point where she's going to do this and escalate to this extent. But finding out that, Carolyn is pregnant, that's really the thing that pushes it over the top to that level. But then in the aftermath of it, Jay is wrestling with this disbelief, with this what happened to me, what caused me to
Yeah.
go to this level. And you're coupling all this with the fact that she's a very young person. She doesn't really have anyone to talk to about when it comes to all of this.
And on top of it, her father is on trial for a murder she committed.
Hmm.
Like, it's just, by the time she admits that she took the poker and she brought it over to Tommy's with that note, I mean, that all makes sense, where she's just kind of like, oh no, it's like, my dad is really going to go down for something that he truly didn't do, not realizing that he did this after postpartum part, which isn't great either,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this is a crime as well.
Okay, we have to talk just a little bit here about Rusty himself, and that one of the interesting messages of this show, at least this season, is that you can be the worst person known to mankind, and yet you are still not guilty of the central crime at the center of it, because none
Yeah.
of this changes the fact that Rusty is unlikable, despicable, a cheater, just awful to everyone around him. He's beating people up.
Yeah, that's why I actually really liked his closing statement, where he was just like, yeah, I'm an unlikable guy. I did this to my wife. I did this to my children. This is my colleagues, like all these things that I did, but I didn't murder this person. It's like, all right, well, at least you have a little bit of self-awareness.
That was the best Gyllenhaal performance of the entire season for me, because it feels like they have told Jake at times, okay, we either want you to be really, really quiet or we want you to scream at people. Then you're not going to do anything in between. And those are the two different things you're going to oscillate between. But there was
Yeah.
a little bit of everything. He got to show all of the various tools
Yeah.
in his toolbox, which is a pretty appropriate way to also describe Rusty Savage. And it just felt like we had an argument where if I was on the jury in that moment, I would have actually probably rendered the same verdict where, yes, I think I would have thought Rusty is a terrible person. But at the same time, you got to separate those emotions from whether or not he actually killed this person. And that's where we look at Tommy, who did a bad job. Tommy, you did a bad job through this trial.
The problem with Tommy is he was set up to fail. This case was flimsy at best. They didn't have a murder weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some DNA that was in there, but he was having an affair with her. There wasn't enough evidence to show that he absolutely did this. It wasn't there. This case was flimsy.
Let's just talk a little bit too about one of the theories that we've discussed and you brought up over the last few episodes. And I really liked this theory, was that Tommy could be the killer, just because it would be a fascinating sort of turnabout where the prosecutor is actually the person who is responsible. They gave us a lot of suggestions. Do you think they really explained Tommy's history with Carolyn enough, or does it really even matter?
I don't think it matters. I think he was just being a creep to her at work. She filed an HR complaint, and that's as far as it went. And his obsession with her just never really left, but he wasn't really able to work with her anymore, so it didn't really matter. And that's kind of where it was. I was really interested in having someone like Tommy be the killer because he was the person who was, part of this case, right? Yeah. And the idea that he would frame the person that he's going up against to put them in jail for something that he did himself was just like so delicious. I couldn't look away from it. But the idea that Rusty, who didn't kill Carolyn, but absolutely was involved in this, was over there and got, you're innocent of this one part of it, but not the rest of it. He really got away with a lot.
Well, I think that's going to be, if there's a prevailing criticism that some people may have about this finale, and I think it was endlessly entertaining, but there was no justice in this finale. I mean, it ends.
But that happens, right?
Yeah, it does.
But I will say that this show should have ended before we got to that last scene of the happy family. They're all together and, they're having pancakes or whatever's going on. I'm just like, what? Why? Like, how? Okay, so Barbara knows that her husband was involved in this. Her daughter is a killer as well. And now they're all one big happy family where everybody's looking at each other and laughing and laying in the grass and having food. And there was this one moment at the very end where Barbara looks at Rusty and gives him this smile. And I was like, smile? Really? Your daughter killed somebody and your husband tied them up. I know that he did all this to protect Barbara because that's who he thought he was protecting. And he ended up protecting Jay. But it's still so diabolical and demented that I don't know how Barbara is happily in this marriage. And because she gave such a smile, I was like, I just don't believe it. I feel like she would be stuck there and she'd be like, well, I got to protect my daughter and what she did, so I have to be here. And, Rusty did this thing for me, but it's pretty demented what he did, that she would be more trapped and that any kind of smile she would have some sort of fear in it because she is living with two people who have done some terrible things. But that's not how it played out. It was kind of weird.
It was a weird directing choice. I just don't understand why they did that part of it. Also, if you're going to show a little bit of a flash forward here, for me personally, I'm not trying to act like I'm totally apathetic to Rusty's family life, but that has been sort of the weaker part of Presumed Innocent for me. Like, I'm really in this show for the mystery and the legal drama. I want to actually know, where does Rusty's career go from this? Because yes, he did not kill Carolyn, but he also did do what he did with the medical examiner. He also did get into a fight outside of his place. It's not like he's coming out of this totally unscathed. Does he actually have a job anymore?
Yeah, it seems like it was really only about what happens with Rusty and his family afterwards. And it's kind of like, for me, I actually didn't need to know that. I would have absolutely assumed that that the parents are going to protect Jay. She's not going to end up going to jail for it. This case has already been tried and done, sort of thing. They're not looking at anybody else. That was enough of an explanation that I did not need to see her rolling around in the grass and having food and life is peachy. I don't know how many of you out there wanted to see a happy ending for Rusty, but I'm not one of them.
No, I wanted to see Rusty get some element of comeuppance, which is why.
Yeah, I didn't need to see him go to jail, but
Yeah.
I needed to see something. Like when he went into like their home gym and was like, "Oh, I see your bag is packed. You're going on that vacation." I was like, "Please be leaving him."
Yeah, if she was leaving him, or we got some sort of surefire proof that he's never going to practice law again after what he's done, or just
Right.
something that made me feel like, okay, this guy is the worst. He's getting some element of punishment for all of these just abysmal things that he has done. But this is life. This is what happens sometimes. Bad people do not get what they ultimately deserve.
Right.
Okay, so as we are wrapping this up here, there's a couple of season 2 thoughts I want to just put out into the ether, since I think we're both just so eternally satisfied by this
Oh,
finale.
so satisfied. I cannot wait to see what they're doing for season 2.
Okay. Are they going to set season 2 in the same city? Are we sticking around Chicago? Are we going somewhere else? Because I don't think we're going to see Rusty again. Like, let me make that very, very clear. But do you want to use one of these other characters again? Like, do you want to stay in the same city? I think it's interesting.
I think we could see Rusty again. I think if they stay in the same city to have a cameo from somebody from the family, absolutely, I think that that could happen. Or we could have just a quick cameo of maybe whoever the next lawyer is passing by him in, the hallways or something like that.
What if the cameo is from Tommy's cat? I saw
Oh
at least
my
I
God.
saw at least 5 comments over the past week that Tommy's cat was actually the killer. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, I've got 2 actors who I think could be the lead of Presumed Innocent
Ooh,
season 2.
all
If
right.
they call number 1, let me make this clear. I want a Monsieur Spade season 2 at AMC, but
I know, but they haven't renewed
I know.
it yet, and it's already July.
if they don't do that, Clive Owen, welcome to Presumed Innocent season 2. Who would not want to see Clive Owen in that deep voice and
In
his
anything. He's amazing.
Okay, and now my other idea here, though, because Clive Owen as a possible suspect could be great, but I was
Yeah.
also thinking of who is one of the most likable, warm-hearted actors who would just mentally challenge me if I saw them in a place of peril or ambiguity.
Dave Foley?
Dave Foley's up there. I'm going with Sterling K. Brown. Randall Pearson, I love you. I love your
Oh,
voice. You could do no wrong. But
I know. He's such a treasure. No one would believe he would murder anybody.
That's why I feel like Sterling is already signing the contract if they're giving
Right?
it to him, because he would be so much fun in this role. I'm so happy we went on this journey. I'm sure there's going to be people who don't like the finale, because that always
There always
happens.
will be. They're never going to be able to please everybody, aka the blacklist, where they kind of just leave it up to your interpretation, and it's kind of the coward's way out. And I'm really glad that they picked a lane, they went with their ending, and I really liked it. Let us know if you guys liked it or didn't. You wish they had stayed with Barbara, Tommy, somebody else.
Yeah, it's such a fun show to discuss. I mean, that's really why we're going to be missing it. But like we said earlier on, this is not the end of the murder mystery discussion here. This is only the
No.
beginning of a really exciting next few months. Only Murders in the Building.
Soon.
Yeah, coming very, very soon. We're going to have a lot of stuff leading up to the premiere of that. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. Also, as Jess said, on Patreon, we are doing discussions on Evil as well as Criminal Minds Evolution. Great, great stuff happening there. And thank you to everyone for your support on Patreon. We appreciate that. And we'll see you here next time.